Hello folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta, and we are continuing with the standards on auditing, right? And the last audit under consideration, the last standard on auditing under consideration was the SA 230, audit documentation, right? So we have already had a lecture on audit documentation and covered at least, almost half the part of the essay. And today I think we'll conclude with the entire rest of the essay. So let us give a quick recap of what we have seen in the previous lecture so that there is a continuity between the previous lecture and the current lecture, right? So what have we seen in the previous lecture? We started with the meaning of audit documentation. So what is audit documentation? It is the record of the procedures performed, the record of the evidences obtained, and the record of the conclusions drawn, right? So all these things have to be documented, and these documentation is also known as work paper. So if we refer to certain definitions that have been given by this essay, then audit documentation is the record of audit procedures performed, relevant audit evidences obtained, and conclusions the auditor reaches, right? And this is also known as the working paper or the work paper, right? Next we have the audit file. And what is the audit file? It is the hard file or the soft file that you prepare, right, which is the physical or the electronic form. So if we look at the entire definition, it is one or more folder or other storage media in physical or electronic form containing the records that comprises the audit documentation for a specific engagement, right? And then we had also seen who is an experienced auditor. So an individual, whether internal or external to the firm, who has practical audit experience and a reasonable understanding of the audit processes, the essays and the applicable legal and regulatory requirements, the business environment in which the entity operates, and the auditing and financial reporting issues relevant to the entity's industry, right? So an auditor who has an experience in these fields are known as the experienced auditor, right? So these are the three definitions we had covered, and we had covered them in detail. We have already discussed about it, so we'll just skip the discussion part now. Next we had the nature and purpose of the audit documentation. So audit documentation, it is an evidence of the auditor's basis for a conclusion, and it is an evidence that the audit was performed and planned in accordance with the essays and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. Then we have seen that yes, the audit documentation will assist the team in planning and performing the audit, right? We have seen how it does that. It also assists the manager or the engagement partner or anybody, right? Anybody who is responsible for that purpose to supervise and direct the audit, right? And discharge the review responsibilities as well, right? Next, it also sets up the accountability of who did, what was the work done, what was the evidence gathered, right? What was the basis of conclusion and everything. Next we have it is a retention of the records. Now what are the records that we're talking about? We're talking about the records of the procedures, records of the evidences, and records of the conclusion. Then it also helps you, right? It helps you to get yourself reviewed by the EQCR, the Engagement Quality Control Reviewer, or an external reviewer, right? Any external inspection which is generally performed as per the legal and regulatory framework or the requirement, right? That is what we had seen in the previous lecture. Now we move on to understand what is the actual nature of documentation, right? So the documentation that the auditor should prepare, the auditor will prepare, right? That should provide a sufficient and appropriate record of the basis of his report, right? So by sufficiency we mean that the quantum should be appropriate, and appropriate actually means the quality. So these are inversely proportional, we have already seen in the previous essay, right? So the records that he maintains should be sufficient and appropriate as well. If it is appropriate, sufficiency can be sacrificed to some extent, and if it is sufficient, the appropriateness can be sacrificed to some extent, right? And then it was that the audit was planned and performed as per the applicable requirements and the legal requirements, regulatory requirements, and the applicable essays, right? Then the audit documentation is to be prepared timely. Now what will happen if you prepare the documentation timely. It will enhance the quality of your audit, because when your documentation is prepared on the timely basis, right, it can be used for the reference, for supervision, right, the things that we have seen in the previous slide. It can be used for those things whenever it is appropriate. Whenever it is needed, the document is ready to be referred, right? And it would also facilitate the effective review and evaluation of the evidences that you have obtained, and on the basis of which you have reached the conclusion, right? Next is, what is the form, content and the extent of documentation. So this is where we use the word experienced auditor. You already know who an experienced auditor is: a person who understands the audit process, the essay, the business environment, and the reporting issue, right? So the form, content, and extent of documentation should be such, right, that it can enable that experienced auditor to understand the nature, timing, and extent of the procedures that you have performed, right? And it will also help him to understand the result of the procedures that you have performed, the result of the evidences that you have obtained. What is the conclusion you drew from them, right? That should be easily understandable from that documentation. The documentation should speak, right? When you look at it, you should be able to reflect and gather the information that you require. And it will also enable that experienced auditor to understand the significant matters that arose during your audit, right? How you dealt with that matter, right? What were the evidences that you obtained in order to deal with that matter? What is the conclusion that you reached, right? What was the role of the professional judgment that you used during that evaluation, right? These things, then the conclusion drawn on that can be understood by the experienced auditor. That should be the purpose of documentation. That should be the level of documentation actually, right? Your work paper should be readable, your work paper should be understandable. That should be the level of work paper that you prepare. So now when we talk about the form, content, and extent of the documentation, what do you think? What are the general factors that will actually affect the kind of form you use, that will affect the kind of content, the extent to which you prepare the documentation or you get into the procedures? What is it that would affect these things? Let us see that, right? So basically the size and complexity of the entity, that would affect the form and content and extent, right? So if it is a very small entity and very simple entity, then a mere documentation to record structures will be enough. That yeah, everything is in place, it has been recorded, it has been just put in place. But if it is a large entity and you have entered into some complex transactions, right, the complexity of the entity is dealing into, for example, foreign exchange, right? So the transactions that the entity entered becomes very complex. So over there, the documentation that you prepare, right, that should be very crisp, that should be up to the point, that should be detailed to make it enable to be readable, right? The extent of the documentation should go beyond a limit, right? Should go beyond a point so that it is understandable by the experienced auditor, right? And it also depends on the kinds of audit procedures you are performing, right? For example, when you are checking the details of the sales, right, what do? Nothing. You just pick up the samples, you plot that samples, right? You have the invoice number, the details and everything, and whatever the vouching that you have done, right, in order to trace whether the sales entry has been recorded and that are in place, right, and all the authorizations have been met. So that is a general table that you prepare and you jot down, yes, it has been authorized by this person, it flew through this chain, right? The procurement, the request has already been raised, the stock had been transferred from the warehouse, this is it, right? The authorized person did the dealing, the amount has been received. All these things will be just documented as per the basis of the document. But if that procedure was a complicated procedure, right, for example, you are preparing a depreciation schedule of a manufacturing entity. The entity has huge plants, right, that has been working on for years now, right, and you have to prepare the depreciation schedule, and it is varied. Like you have depreciation for different items in the factory, different rates of depreciation, different life of that, different values, right, different date of installment, and then you have to prepare a schedule and you have to automate it somehow, that so that it links the sheets, right? So over there you go into detail, you get into an extent to prepare the documentation. It is a complicated documentation that you have to simplify, right? So the nature of your audit procedure that you have performed will also reflect the form, content and extent of the audit documentation. The next factor that would influence is the identified risk of material misstatement. If your ROMM is high, your documentation should be intense. If your ROMM is low, you can go away with the mere documentation, the bare minimum documentation required. You know that okay, this area it's not risky area, it is a simple area, it goes over year and year, even the figures are same, there is nothing to doubt. You can just record the things casually. But if there is an area where you have seen that the internal control is either missing or is not working efficiently, there you will have to get into detailed checking, because you know that yeah, this is a risky area, things can go wrong over here. So you will apply procedures for that, right? And then you will have to document intensely. It will be a heavy loaded work paper, right? Then the form and content will also depend on the significance of the audit evidences that you have obtained. If the evidences are very significant and that will enable you to draw the conclusion with precise accuracy, then the content, the extent of documentation that you do will be minimum. You will just place this evidence and you'll say that yeah, this is a conclusive evidence or almost a conclusive evidence, and based on this evidence we will take this conclusion. But if your audit evidences are persuasive, right, or the evidences that you have obtained are not significant at all, they are not enough to form a basis of conclusion, what you do? You extend your procedures, you extend your documentation, right? You document all the other relevant matters, all the other relevant facts that would be required for you to draw a reasonable conclusion, right? So the extent of the work paper would increase then. Next is the nature and extent of exceptions identified. If you have very little exceptions identified, you will go with mere documentation. But if you have a high value exception, right, that would impact the financial statement, that would impact the decision, that would impact the conclusion, then your work paper has to be loaded, right? Next is the need to document a conclusion or the basis for a conclusion. When you're documenting a conclusion or its basis, which is not readily determinable from the documentation of the work performed or audit evidences obtained. So if you are not able to conclude on the basis of your work performed, right, then you will have to extend your extent. You will have to go beyond, you will have to do further steps, further procedures in order to reach that conclusion. You will have to attain further evidences for that, right? But the final thing is the audit methodology and tools used. So what is the methodology of audit, the tools that you are using? Right? If you are into CIS environment, you are using the CAT, computer aided audit technique tools, right? So in those cases you will have to document it to that extent, right? So that is what we basically mean: the size, the complexity of the entity, the nature of the procedure, identified risk of identified ROMM, significance of the evidences, nature of exception, inability to draw the conclusion, or the methodology and the tools used, right? Will you be able to remember this? Okay. Let's move ahead with that. Now we would come to the most important and the main portion of our essay, which is the specific documentation, right? So in the very first lecture, in the beginning of this essay, we had discussed that this essay will deal with 3 specific kinds of documentation, right? First is documentation of the discussion. So whenever the auditor gets into a discussion on any relevant matter with either the management or the TCWG or any authorized person in the entity, right, then what is that significant matter for which you had to undergo such a detailed discussion, right? What was the basis of the discussion? When did you discuss that, right? Like either I discussed it in the beginning of the audit or before starting my procedure, or in between or at the end before determining the conclusion. When did I hold that discussion, right? Who was the basic person with whom I did held that discussion, right? Whether that person was a relevant person for the discussion. These things have to be documented whenever you undertake a significant discussion, right? So you had a significant matter, right? You had already evaluated it, you have already performed audit procedures on that, right? So you, on the back of your mind, have already reached a certain conclusion, or at least the direction of your conclusion. Now when you're discussing it with the management, there can be 2 aspects. Either the management is going in line with what you had concluded, or management is cooking up some new stories, right? That means the direction of management is the reverse direction as per your conclusion. That means there is an inconsistency between your conclusion and the discussion with the management. And if something like that occurs, right, you will have to also document how did you deal with that inconsistency. How did you gather additional evidences, right, so as to either prove your conclusion to be valid or to revise your conclusion that no, that was based on such mere evidences which were persuasive, and finally that was a risk. And then we got some other evidences that proved that okay, the management was right. Right? So whatever situation takes place, whatever happens, you will have to document that discussion in detail. Right? So that anytime in future, if there is any reference to this work, to this conclusion, you will say that yes, I had discussed this matter with the management also. This is the person who was involved, and there we discussed this fact, and this this inconsistency was also known to that person. So it was properly communicated also, and that was the basis of my conclusion. Right? That will help you in future with such circumstances. Right? Next you have the documentation of the departure. So at any point of time, if the auditor thinks it fit that he needs to depart from any requirement of any standard, right, then what he will do is that he will depart. He will apply his professional judgment to see whether or not that departure is required. And if he concludes that no, such departure is very much required, he would depart. Right? Then he would record the reason why he departed. He will have to explain that yeah, this is the reason why I departed. The essay says something like this, but that factor is not relevant for this specific client. They are not working in line with that. So if I would follow the essay, the pattern specified in essay, I would not reach any conclusion with this client. So I had to modify that procedure, that process, and this is the reason for that modification, and this is the alternate procedure that I applied. Right, in order to decrease my ROMM, in order to reach the proper conclusion. Right? Now let me give you an example for the same. Right? The best example could be the example from essay 510. There you have the requirements which relates to the inventory count. Right? So basically what happens is you are not supposed to perform inventory counts, but you are supposed to be present. Right? You are supposed to witness the inventory count that the client performs. Now the situation is, I would take an example of my client itself. I was situated in Delhi, right, in the Delhi office, but the inventory count of my client was supposed to be held in Chennai. Right? So at that point of time, if I am lucky enough, or if it is possible for me to be present for that stock count, I don't have any other engagement, I don't have any other procedures to be performed in Delhi office, then I can very well fly to Chennai and witness that stock take, that physical verification of the inventory. But if due to any particular circumstance I am not able to leave Delhi at that specific day, right, there are some procedures that are stuck in the Delhi office itself, there are some experts who are coming over for some discussion, then I will not be able to attend that inventory count. Right? So what have I done over there? I have departed from the relevant requirement of that standard essay 510. Right? So what did I do is, I will document the reason. Okay, because of such and such engagement that I was involved in Delhi, I could not witness the stock take. Okay, so the reason of departure is documented. Now what I need to document is the alternative procedure performed. So what did I do is, 3 days hence, I took a flight to Chennai, I went to Chennai, and over there I did the stock count, or actually I recalculated or re-verified the inventory, and within that 3 days I rolled it forward, or basically from that particular day when I checked the inventory, I rolled it backward with all the movement that had taken place in the inventory that had been documented. And with that roll forward, I was able to reconcile the state of inventory 3 days back, when the inventory count was actually conducted by the client. Right? So that alternate procedure actually was helpful to reconcile the entire inventory, and at the end, to conclude with it, the requirement of essay was also fulfilled now. Right? So that would be the best example suiting the documentation of the departure. Next, we move on to the documentation of the matter arising after the date of audit report. Now again, consider a case. This case, I'll take an example of subsequent events basically. So that you would have always also referred in your AS, accounting standard for subsequent events, right? So for example, there was a debtor, right? The debtor was going very good for you. If you look at the records previously, they did not default in any payment. So you basically did not prepare any provision for that debt also, because the track record has always been good, and the auditor also did not emphasize on the preparation of the provision because that was not needed. But after the date of audit report, there was a wildfire in the factory of that debtor, right? And everything was destroyed. The debtor goes bankrupt, right? And you were supposed to receive say 20 crores from that debtor. Now due to his insolvency, due to his bankruptcy, he will not be able to pay you your debt back. Now what do? This is a matter that existed on the balance sheet date, right? So what you have to do is you need to rectify it. So what I will say, what as an auditor you will say, you will request the management that I would want you to prepare a provision for the debt. If the management does it, you will just give the detail that yes, such and such incident had happened, and then the management also prepared the provision in the emphasis on matter paragraph, right? But if the management denies, they say no, I am very sure we'll win the case, we will not prepare any provision for that, well, it will be recovered, he has other businesses as well, he'll give us the money from there. What do? Right? You will have to take a judgment, a professional judgment at that point of time as to what you should do, and that would depend from case to case, right? So basically what I tried to explain and what you should understand from this explanation was that if there is an exceptional circumstance and the auditor is performing any additional procedure or drawing any new conclusion that now we have to prepare the provision, right, and this situation is occurring after the balance sheet date, then you will have to document certain things. First is what? You will have to document what is the circumstance that you encountered. Then you document that okay, Mr. X was the debtor and there was a heavy fire in his factory, and so as a result he went bankrupt. And so there is a huge doubt on the recovery of the debt, and hence a provision for bad debt was required. So that was a circumstance, right? What is the procedure you performed will also be included. So we have performed certain procedure to confirm that yes, certain things have happened, right? And so the other procedure we are performing is we are planning to bring up a provision in the accounts, in the liability side, right? And what is the conclusion you have drawn? Conclusion is that the provision should be made, right? Then accordingly you will also have to change your audit documentation. So you will again note when and by whom the change to the audit documentation were made and reviewed, who reviewed it, whether the change was appropriate, because your review and the conclusion has already been done. Your EKC that everything has been finished if required. Now if you are again modifying something into it, again that has to be reviewed. So you will have to write who modified it, who recorded it, who reviewed it, right? And then you will be done with the scene. So are you clear with what are the specific documentation that is needed? One is the document all the discussions, document the departure. All these are specific documentation, these are special circumstances which do not generally occur, right? Then documentation of the matter arising after the date of audit report, right? And then you will have to assemble the final audit file. Okay, we have a slide on the last documentation part I forgot to show. It is the auditors should document the circumstance encountered, the new or additional audit procedure performed, audit evidences obtained and conclusions reached, and their effect on the auditor's report, and when and by whom the resulting changes to audit documentation were made and reviewed. Exactly what I have already told you, right? Now you also need to assemble the final audit file. So when we are talking about assembly of the file, then we are talking about that physical file or the electronic file, whichever you prepare. If you are preparing that hard copy, please attach all the documentations to that hard file. If you are preparing e-audit like us, then you will have to upload all the documents, all the work papers, all the reference evidences to that audit report, to that e-audit, right? Check all the lists over there. complete the entire audit, all the documentation that you have to do, all the descriptions that you have to write, and then close it, right? And this document that you are preparing, the audit file that you are preparing, needs to be retained, right? The period of retention is not specified in SA 230, but if you refer to SQC1, there it says that the retention period should be for 7 years, right? So before the expiry of 7 years, you're not supposed to do away with the file, right? So that is the entire SA 230 that we have discussed. Basically today we have discussed the form and content and extent of the documentation, right? That it should enable the experienced auditor to understand the nature, time and extent of the procedure, the result and the conclusion which he draws, right? Like who and when, who performed the review, who performed the audit, when did he perform, right? What is the characteristics? These things have to be documented, right? Then we have also seen the factors that are affecting the form and content and the extent of the audit documentation. What are those factors? The size and complexity of the entity, the nature of the audit procedure to be performed, the identified risk of material misstatement, the significance of the audit evidence obtained, the nature and extent of the exceptions identified, the need to document the conclusion on the basis of the conclusion not readily determinable from the document of the work performed or the audit evidence obtained, and the audit methodology and the tool used. I just read through it because we have already explained it, right? What are the things? Size and complexity of the entity, the nature of the procedure, the ROMM that you have assessed, the evidences that you have obtained, exceptions that you have identified, methodology, tool, and where there is a problem with the conclusion, right? Next you have specific documentation. There are 3 things specific over there. That is the documentation of any discussion that you hold with the management or those who are charged with governance, right? If there is an inconsistency, you will also have to see how did you resolve the inconsistency and what did you document for that. Next you have the documentation of the departure. We have taken the example of the inventory count, right? So you'll have to write the reason why were you not able to attend the inventory count and what is the alternate procedure that you have performed in order to meet the requirements of the standard. Next you have the documentation of the matter arising after the date of audit report, right? So if there is any significant matter that is arising after the date of audit report and that is an adjusting event, then you will have to rectify that. And even if it is not an existing event, at least documentation is very important, right? So what do you document over there? You document the circumstance that has been encountered after the date of report. You document the audit procedures performed, the evidences obtained and the conclusions drawn, and the effect that it had on your audit report, right? And when and by whom the resulting changes to the audit document was made and reviewed, right? With that we come to the end of essay 230, right? I hope this essay was clear to you. And remember, there are specific things that you need to learn: the meaning of documentation, the purpose of documentation, and the specific documentation that we have dealt. Generally you don't get a question from this essay on the theoretical aspect, but you may get practical question from this essay, right? Or at least reference has to be made whenever you are writing about some other questions referring to some other essays, right? So with that we'll come to an end of this lecture. Stay tuned for the next essay that we'll be discussing. Until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye-bye.